What is some advice you would give to someone out there who's wanting to become a content creator online, or who they're in the thick of it now, working on it, and maybe it's tough? What's some
Mm,
advice you would give to the modern content creator?
I would say whenever you put something out into the world, whether it's only your mom and your brother reading it at this point in time, take the extra step right after you've put it out into the world to get it in front of the right eyes or the right people. So, what I mean by that is whenever I publish a dossier, like a deep dive on an individual person, I always take 10 minutes to research, like, hey, who is this person's agent? Or what is this person's email or whatever? And I forward it to them, or I tweet it at them and I tag them with their handle. And that kind of, it's what James Clear says, you will be shocked by how much luck you can attract just by telling people what you're working on.
Mm,
So, telling people what you're working on, obviously, but also taking the extra step to get it in front of the right eyes. This happened to me last Christmas when I did a dossier on The Rock. I tagged The Rock. I didn't know The Rock looked at his Twitter feed, but he
mhm.
really liked it. And he tweeted about it 4 times. Then he put it on his Instagram. I went on Bulgarian television because they were like, oh, look,
Yes.
someone from our country, like, got recognized by The Rock. So I never expected that. I didn't plan for that to happen, but in a weird way, I took that extra step of like tagging him on Twitter. I could have gone even further. I could have found out who his people were and sent it to them, or asked somebody in the profile if they knew somebody, whatever. But the point is that, and I love this quote by David Perel. He says, every single thing that you create is a vehicle for serendipity. So whatever you
Mm,
put out into the world, somehow, some way may reach the right person at the right time. You just don't know, but you could help yourself by taking that extra step.
yeah. Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned the story about The Rock, and I think that's more a story about, like, because, yeah, that went crazy when he reposted it and all that stuff. I think that's how I initially, started following the profile, was through that
That's
through that
amazing.
moment, because it just went all over the place. But I think that's an example, like, that doesn't happen overnight. That's also an example of being persistent and like, making something of high quality. And I think,
Yeah.
The Rock retweeting it and sharing it all over the place, that is a great example of, like, the payoff of doing something over and over and over and over again, and creating expanding your surface area of luck. What is possible? How much luck am I going to give the opportunity to myself to make right now online? That's a great example of that.
Exactly. And at that point, I mean, it's not like that was my first profile that I had written.
Totally.
The dossier, this was probably number 60, but it hit with the right person at the right time. Like, for example, just recently I interviewed Danny Meyer. And the reason I interviewed Danny Meyer is because I first wrote a dossier on him without ever talking to him. My old editor at Fortune saw it. She knows him. She forwarded it to him. He really liked it. He DM'd me on Twitter and said, hey, I really like this. Thank you for featuring me. And I followed up with, hey, can I
Right.
interview you for the profile? And that's how things happen. It's not that organic.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's just encouraging. Like, I think that's encouraging for creators out there who are listening. Like, it's pretty shocking. Even in working on a podcast, like, when I first got started, I'm pleasantly surprised, like, how few people actually say no.
Yeah.
A lot of people say yes, but you have to ask, you have to bring it with quality, you have to bring it with, you have to just show up consistently. But it's pretty amazing right now to live in this time where a lot of people will say yes if you set yourself up right, and you make quality work.